All right, so let's have a cup of coffee and talk about people pleasing for a moment. Because that's really interesting. It's a very interesting subject indeed. So let's sit down, have a cup of coffee, and talk about people pleasing. I guess also perhaps you're a little bit tired from being on YouTube. Maybe you've been visiting all these YouTube things. Gurus and teachers and professors and scientists and all these endless TED Talks and self-help and inner child therapy and all of this. Maybe you need a cup of coffee. Let's take a cup of coffee and talk about people pleasing. There's a funny sentence, that just occurred to me. If you stop people pleasing, then people won't be pleased. It's as easy as that, right? If you stop people pleasing, then people won't be pleased. If you stop making people happy, then, well, people won't be happy. And we are terrified of that. We are terrified of that. And that's why we people please. Because we are terrified. What if he's not happy with me anymore? What if she's not happy with me anymore? I have to people please in order to survive as a person in this relationship. I have to give my lotion. I have to give the oil to the machinery. I have to people please. I have to make her happy. I have to make him happy so that they can accept me, because that's what we were taught when we grew up in childhood. If you don't please your parents, you're dead, you're out of the game. You're alone. You have to go run to the jungle and try to survive in the treetops, And we know that. So people pleasing is a hard nut to crack, It resides deep within us that we simply just won't. We are terrified. We're afraid of people getting ideas about us in the way that is not to our benefit, Well, that we can take, but we simply don't want that people don't like us. Well, of course we can take that too, but you get my point. In some sense, we're actually more afraid than what we like to admit. So we people please, because we want people to like us. If people like us, if we get people to like us, then we get the confirmation of the self that we currently identify with, or with the feeling of the self. The self gets valid. We don't have the feeling of perpetual worthlessness, which is something that many of us suffer from. Not only because of family and upbringing and childhood or marriage or relationships, but actually because of society. Because we are not appreciated as active parts of society. We are appreciated only as sleeping and dormant parts of society. We are accepted as people pleasers, but we're not accepted as individuals. This is an eternal conflict in society and within relationships. So if you stop to people please, then what's going to happen? Well, the thing that's going to happen is that people won't be pleased. They won't be happy. And we're afraid of that. So that's why we people please. What would happen, for instance, if you told the truth to a president about him as a president? The real truth. If you told the real truth, well, he wouldn't be happy. I don't think that, even Joe Biden, who seems to be a gentleman and a fine fellow, if you told him the real truth about certain things, he wouldn't be especially happy. I actually think that perhaps maybe President Obama would accept it because he has intellect. He has intellect and he has a sense of humor and he's able to take it. But anyway, some people you just can't take. Some people you can't tell the truth to, because that's simply just too dangerous. If you tell the truth to the former president of America, the one who's now facing a little bit of trouble, the one that was before Biden, If you told him the truth, then the whole world will crack open like a walnut, because he would explode in rage. It would just be dangerous. And dangerous people are everywhere, not only as presidents and prime ministers, but of course they represent a pretty sweet majority in the high offices around the world. If you tell the regime of the country that you're living in that, dear regime, you're not only destroying your own country, you are actually also harming the world as a global world society. You are actually also putting malignant hindrances in the way for positive growth because of the self-serving and opportunistic parts of the self-serving regime, which has only one interest, and that is to stay in business, to be the business owner of the country, and to be the propaganda owner, to be the producer of propaganda in the country, to have exclusive rights to the propaganda, because that's what usually regime or malignant regime wants. They want to have the exclusive right to propaganda power. They want to have exclusive rights to the ideology or to the cultural values of the country. If you say that to certain regimes, you're in deep trouble. You will probably get killed or imprisoned, or both. Imprisoned first and killed after, or something like that. So, people-pleasing is a difficult thing. If you told, for instance, your wife that, honey, I don't like it particularly much, the fact that you abuse me because of you yourself are afraid of facing your own inner pain. I don't like that too much. You shouldn't abuse me. You should not manipulate me and abuse me just because you're afraid of meeting your own inner pain, the truth about your own history. Well, if you have a good wife, she will accept it. She will say, "Oh, really? Do I do that? Well, my goodness, that's a hard one to swallow. Well, I will have to take a look at it. Gee whiz, I have to take a look at this, if it is true. Because if it's true, okay, then it's fine that you tell me. Actually, I should thank you for telling me, because I don't want to be an abusive, toxic person like that. Thank you." If you tell that to your husband, honey, I don't particularly like that you abuse me and mistreat me and disrespect me simply because of that you're afraid of your own demons, and the demons is that you actually don't respect yourself. I mean, the demon in you is that you actually you suffer from the lack of self-respect. You suffer from the lack of self-esteem inside your own inner soul. And because you have contempt, because you suffer from self-hate, because of the trauma that you went through as a child, you have lived with a certain sense of self-hatred because you hate the trauma that you have. Of course, anyone who has went through what you have gone through would find that very, very difficult. But you should not mistreat me. You should not abuse me simply because you are afraid to encounter your own emotions to this deep-rooted emotional and psychological problem or part of you. Do you see what I mean, honey? If you have a good husband, he would see what you mean. If you don't have a good husband, he would get angry. He would say, "Oh, the well," and all, And then there would be 3 possible scenarios. all hell would break loose, or a medium state of discontent and dissatisfaction would occur, or he would actually be a man and a good spouse and a good partner and say, hey, really? Jesus, you have really analyzed me, you have picked me apart, you bastard. Okay, there's no more ice cream for you tonight, I tell you that. I mean, we people please because we are afraid. We people please because we are afraid. This cup of coffee that we're taking now became a little bit more serious than what I thought. Because it is serious, we all suffer from different things. And we're all afraid of certain things. And even if we're not afraid of seeing the truth, even if we're not afraid of seeing ourselves and meeting ourselves and the truth within ourselves, then perhaps we're afraid of the fact that if people don't like me, if people are not happy with me, I'm gonna get in real trouble. Why are we so afraid? Well, because we lived as very sensitive children for 10 years in a stretch, feeling terrified about this. For 10 years of our life, we were terrified. Between the age of 6 and 16, we were terrified of this because we knew what was going to happen. And before we turned 6 years old, we were simply, as science has proved, hypnotic, a brain state. We were a brain state that took everything in practically as in a state of hypnosis. So of course we're damaged by our environment. Of course we're damaged by how we grew up. We are damaged, and we get damaged from relationships also, because we project. I give you the things that you actually don't deserve, but they come from me. They come from my own inner knots, And likewise, you give me trouble, or you give me trouble or discomfort, or psychological abuse, emotional abuse, simply because of your demons, because of the things that are uncomfortable for you, the things that are not easy for you to face and see. And if we had a society, if we had a real global world society that cared about humanity, that really wanted to improve humanity, that really wanted to improve the state and the emotional health, not only of people, but of the world as a whole, of global world society as a whole, then, our coffee could be really, really great and super delicious, and the best coffee that there ever was, because we would have a world that actually cared about the things that really matter. But we don't have that. We have a world which is lost in a horrible soup of media, of selfish, opportunistic media, and practically also malignant capitalist media in a way, Parts of it could be seen like that, because it's about getting money, and money is power. So the more money you get, the more power you have. And, if we as a world population were able to face the malignant part of humanity, that would be very respectful. I mean, that would deserve respect. Then we would be worthy of respect. If we are not able to face the malignant parts of the human being, if we are not, as I've spoken of for 30 years now, if we are not able to confront the human program, if we're not willing to open the curtain, if we're not willing to look inside our own psychology, into the makeup of the human program, then we don't deserve a good humanity, We can't chicken out. We have to sit down, have a coffee, and talk. hardball, We have to take a look at stuff. We have to open ourselves up and don't be afraid. And we have to say to our world leaders that we expect better than this. We won't give you power next year. We won't support you if you're not able and capable of doing something better than this. This is not good enough. You're not good enough. You have either to educate yourself or you have to get out because you're not good enough. We want something better than this. We want a better leader than what you currently are. If you can become the good leader that we need, okay, that's great. But if you cannot, you should go home, have a cup of coffee, and join the chat. You should take a rest, go for a walk, and help to make sure that we get a better leader, that we get a better leadership, because everything in this world is about leadership. Everything is about command, in a way. Everything is about true, mature authority. We need authority. We need leadership. We cannot take this mumble-jumble anymore. And the world is exactly in a state of mumble-jumble. Even the war in Ukraine is a mumble-jumble war because we accept that someone like Vladimir Putin is able to control the events, which is insane. Why would any global world society accept that? The only reason why we accept that is because we don't have a world senate. I have spoken about this for so long. We need a world senate. Why do we need a world senate? Because we need authority. We need leadership. The United Nations is not leadership. We need, because it's a coffee club, It's a coffee club, but a little bit different than this coffee community that we're having right now. We need someone who has real authority. We need an institution of authority, not a person of authority, because a person of authority would just be eliminated, But in an institution of authority that actually is supported by the world nations is something else. So we need a world senate. We need an institution of authority that can get this world back on its feet again. Because that's what we want. We want a good world. And in order to get a good world, we have to allow freedom of speech. We have to understand what speech is. We have to accept the human being. Many countries in this world doesn't accept the human being. They just don't accept the human being as a human being. They accept only slaves. They accept only machines. They accept only people pleasers. Many countries in this world are like this, and I know about some of them very well, or at least one of them. And when a whole country is based on fear, if you base the whole country on fear, if you do not people please, then you're in deep trouble. That is a very bad leadership. It's a very toxic and bad leadership. So people are scared because they know that if I speak out, I'm going to go to prison. If I tell the truth, they're going to kill me. We cannot have countries like that anymore. It's just not. It's not good enough. We cannot have countries like that anymore. We have to have grown-up, decent societies, and we have to make sure that we get that. How can we make sure that we get that? We have to demand it. We have to take control in a certain sense. We have to say that this is what we want. We don't want to be bullied anymore. We don't want to be abused anymore. We don't want to be treated like this. We want a decent society. We want the real global world society where the humanity of the human race is something that is truly taken care of and cultivated in a way that is beneficial for each and everyone, for all of us. That's what we want. We want a better world. We want a better humanity. We want something that is really good and worthwhile. We want to make this world a work of art, in a sense. We want to respect that which is good, that which is worthy, because humanity could be art, because society could be art. The thing that is good about us should be accepted and brought into the organism of societies. We need a humanity that cultivates and protects and takes care of everything that is of relevance to us human beings in a good and beneficent way, in an appropriate way. Now everything is inappropriate. We need to turn that to get it to be appropriate, because that's what we need. We need appropriate leadership. We need appropriate societies. We need social codes and society codes that are appropriate for a better life, for a better human being, for a better humanity, for a better global world society. And this is really, really, really true, and it's very important, and we have to accept this. And if we only people please, then we won't be able to say this truth. So, if we stop people pleasing, or we reduce our people pleasing and increase a little bit our demand for the common good, we simply say that, well, I want that things should be better than this. I want to improve society. I want a better country than this. I want a better world than this. I want a better humanity than this. I want a better community than this. I want a better relationship than this. We should be able to say that. But because we're afraid, then sometimes we just people please, we don't rock the boat. We just say, oh, no, never mind, But then things won't get better. So, once in a while, we should have a cup of coffee, sit down on YouTube, or alone in our own house, or together in our own house, or with the neighbor or whoever, or with a politician or a president or a prime minister especially, and say that, honey bunny, we need a better world than this, and you and I are going to play a big part in that. Okay, hallelujah. All right. Thanks for the coffee chat. Thanks.